And the reshuffling also comes at a time when the country's economy is starting to show some signs of slowing down. Annualized GDP fell nearly 7% in the second quarter. A sales tax increase from 8 to 10% helped wipe out growth of 6.1% in the first quarter. Now, that's the most the economy has contracted since the March 2011 earthquake and tsunami. And Japan's central bank says the slump is temporary, adding it does not plan any monetary policy moves anytime soon. For more on this, we're joined by Shihoko Goto, Senior Associate for the Northeast Asia Associate Program with the Wilson Center. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Michelle.
So Prime Minister Abe has reshuffled his cabinet. We've got a new Minister for Labor, Health and Welfare, as we reported. The Finance and Economy Ministers are keeping their positions. And analysts are saying that this signals his determination to deliver on his pledges to overhaul the pension system, to revive the economy, and to bring more women into the workforce. Do you agree?
I think this was a brilliant maneuver by the Prime Minister. I think there's renewed interest and excitement towards a reinvigorated cabinet. But once you actually look inside the content, yes, there are 5 women appointed to some key posts, including the Trade Ministry, but the 2 critical ones, Finance Minister and the Foreign Minister, are the same, and they're both men. What does that mean? That essentially means that Abe wants to stay on track, that he wants to continue the economic and the foreign policies that he has pursued until now. What this does mean, though, is that he has brought in his allies closer to him, but perhaps even his enemies even closer to his pocket. One example I can cite is Mr. Ishiba, who had been one of his biggest political rivals, and indeed, he is seen as a potential prime minister caliber kind of man. But he's now a cabinet member too, and that really consolidates Abe's hold within his own party and indeed in government.
Well, some of the changes include 2 MPs considered friendly towards Beijing. He appointed 2 senior posts, Sadakuzu Tanigaki as the LDP Secretary General and veteran MP Toshihiro Nikai as his deputy. Do you think this is an attempt to mend fences with China, or to at least move in that direction?
Definitely. Japan is very well aware that tensions in the region, especially its ongoing tensions with Korea as well as China, is not healthy for the economy, let alone for diplomatic relations. In the near term, there's speculation that there will be a bilateral meeting between Abe and Xi Jinping in November in Beijing. But in the longer term, I do think this new lineup does mean that Japan is prepared to extend somewhat of an olive branch to China and say that it is really willing and wants to engage in dialogue. So the ball is actually now in Beijing's court, I think.
This may be symbolic, but as you mentioned earlier, another symbolic change could be the increased number of female ministers to 5. That's equaling the record set by his predecessor, Koizumi. Now, this is all part of the program to increase the number of women in the general workforce. Do you think that this strategy will work, that this is all a bigger part of the long-term growth strategy, and having women is really that integral to that?
Abe has set numerical targets about wanting more female executive, more female leadership. What you really need in Japan right now is social change. Social change insofar as that you see female role models, strong women who are able to take leadership positions. And I think certainly Abe has signaled that by appointing a record number of women. Some cynics, though, say that by appointing the daughter of a former Prime Minister, Obuchi, that the Trade Ministry itself is no longer as powerful as it had been in the past. That may or may not be the case, but definitely this is a move in the right direction, and he's actually talking the talk.
Well, a move in the right direction. Now, he also said that the cabinet's top priority is to pull the country out of that chronic deflation. Yet you think that deflation may no longer be the biggest risk to the Japanese economy?
Deflation is definitely a problem. But I think there's great confidence in the Bank of Japan to pursue monetary policy that will actually get it out of that problem. And I think that the BOJ governor, Kuroda, actually made it clear that he expects the 2% inflation target to be met by the end of the fiscal year in March 2015. The bigger challenge for Japan is what's called the third arrow of Abenomics, which is structural reform, that Japan actually becomes a country that is competitive in the longer term and not just dependent on monetary and fiscal stimulus.
So what needs to be done to ensure that this third arrow policy is successful and gains traction?
Well, having more women in leadership positions definitely addresses some of the challenges from the demographic problem that is looming in Japan, as well as in Korea and other industrialized nations. Another issue that Japan really needs to tackle is immigration to meet the needs of a shrinking workforce. Other things like encouraging more businesses to start up, having an on-ramp and an off-ramp so that people can actually join the labor force and change careers. Those are some of the issues that Japan really needs to tackle. But there's no one easy fix to this.
All right. A lot still in play. Thank you so much, Shihoko Goto, Senior Associate for the Northeast Asia Associate Program with the Wilson Center.